Okay.
Hey there, everyone. This is Cassandra from CassandraTiddle.com, and I'm here today to share with you the wonderful work of Nathan Theo Naicker. So he contributed a fantastic article on Vedic astrology for Australia's WellBeing Astrology 2023. So here's the magazine. I've had many of the contributors here on my channel to discuss their work, and some of the astrologers who have contributed to the magazine this year. We've got Kelly Surtees, Wade Caves, Drew Levanti, Gary Caton, Alex Trenoeth, and many, many more. So there's also 2023 annual horoscopes for each sign, which I write. There's a moon calendar, all of the things. It's a lovely thick edition. There's no ads, pure astrology. So it makes a really lovely magazine / book to keep on your or in your astrological library. Can't get my words out today. So I'll pop a link in the show notes below where you can obtain that. If you are international, there's a download link to download a digital copy. If you're in Australia, you're looking at Coles, Woolies, and your news agency. So that's enough talk from me. I'd love to introduce Nathan to you, who's from South Africa and written a wonderful article about Vedic astrology. So if you'd like to share with us a little bit about yourself, your background in astrology, and I'll leave it with you.
All right. Just keeping it short and simple. So I started getting into Western astrology in 2010, Western psychological astrology with Robert Hand, Liz Green, studying a lot of those cosmobiological principles they were busy with at the time. And then by happy circumstance, I found a teacher who studied with Robert Zoller, and I got into the certificate course in medieval astrology and did the diploma in medieval astrology as well. And that was in 2012. And then I studied more formally with Rod Susskind here in South Africa.
Mm-hmm.
My studies in 2014, they were finished. And then I did a whole bunch of courses in locational astrology, horary with Deborah Holding, the School of Traditional Astrology in the UK, and natal, mundane. I got involved with all of Benjamin Dyke's books,
Mm-hmm.
etc., and really got into the medieval tradition in the Western astrology sort of world. And there's always constantly developing, as we know. And so the last 10 years have been, the first half of the last 10 years has been about that. And since 2016, I've been on my journey of Vedic astrology, which is also connecting me to my cultural roots
Mm-hmm.
in India as well. So I've been studying with Pandit Sanjay Rath and focusing on the teachings of Parashara and Jaimini schools of astrology. And now I'm assisting as a teacher in that school and going to India, doing conferences. So the basis of my practice is both Western astrology as well as Vedic astrology, and the two different tools and what they do.
Yeah, I mean, and I think there's more people are looking to Vedic astrology nowadays. I find that we see more astrologers, dabbling in different components of the traditions out of India. And
Mm.
also, there's overlap with some of what we know from the Hellenistic and medieval periods. Would
Yes.
you like to maybe speak to a little bit of, I know it's really complicated, but maybe some of the more fundamental differences between it? I know you were saying that much of what is centralized around the zodiac in Indian traditions is around the star speaker.
Yes. So let's say the different systems of Vedic astrology. Some of them
Mm,
focus on unequal signs and unequal systems of nakshatras, which map to the more sort of reality physically of the constellations and the signs derived thereof. So the signs in Vedic astrology are derived from the nakshatras very explicitly, even down to the elements of the signs. So the basis of that, one of the systems of Ayanamsha is the Chitrapaksha Ayanamsha, which is taking the reference star speaker as a reference point for creating the sidereal zodiac. And there are different reference points as stars that are used to create different kinds of sidereal zodiac, which are used for different purposes. So it's not a debate about which Ayanamsha is correct. It's about which Ayanamsha we're using for a particular purpose, rather. And so the reflection from the star speaker or Chitra is being used as mapping to the divine feminine and the concept of relativity and the deity associated with this nakshatra point on star is Chitragupta, the record keeper of actions, and Vishvakarma, the celestial architect. So it's got a whole vibe of, the sign where Saturn gets exalted as well. So it's got a lot to do with the structure and relativity of the karmic map
Yeah.
as coming from the divine feminine. So that is sort of a short description of the basis for that version of the sidereal zodiac.
Yeah, the philosophy of it all, when you explore that, it just makes so much more sense. And I know, like, a question that I get asked a lot about Vedic astrology and a lot of my own work within my own practice is, with the nodes. Everyone's fascinated by the nodes, and I think it's really the astrologies of India that really nail the meaning of the nodes, in my opinion. And I'd love to hear your perspective on how you work with the nodes, and what it means for you in your practice with your clients, and of course in Indian traditions.
Yeah, so there's a lot to speak about the
So
nodes.
yeah.
Again, with anything in Vedic astrology, it's complicated because there's so much to talk about. But and I wrote a lot about this in my article actually on the nodes towards the end. And essentially, it's an axis of extremity, not really of destiny, because the whole chart is a map of destiny actually. But it's a map of extremity, both of a mental level as well as the physical. So being the nodes of the moon and the nodes having a special association with the luminaries, as is the case also in Western astrology, the concept of material or materiality and excess or largesse and consumption is roughly the north node, and the concept of immateriality or lack thereof, but also very spiritually pregnant, is the concept of the south node. And they are both disruptive influences from the normal order of life in the mind as well as in the body, because they do lead to extremities of personality as well as extremities of manifestations in the body when it comes to physical processes. So in medical astrology, in the Vedic paradigm, they are affecting or causing disruptions to the mind-body connection, and being the head and the tail of the snake, that's quite literally taken in that way in Vedic astrology. And we're using multiple charts in the scheme. So there's a snake lying down in the chart, in all these charts in some way, and understanding the planetary map around them, fully around them. It's almost like a garland on the snake. And so what is that telling us? What is the nature of this snake? What is the nature of this energy that is controlling the karmic map and timing of the whole chart? So we look at it from that point of view, from a mental health point of view, as well as from a physical point of view, because the moon represents both the physical body in terms of the blood, and generationally, the blood connections we have with people and life, and the moon also representative of the mind as well.
Yeah, that's
So,
a really good point, actually. The fact that it's, the moon is also the mind, and sort of the manifestation of the essence of the person. So yeah, I really like that. And obviously I'm not a Vedic astrologer by any stretch, but the way that I work and teach the nodes is with some of the Indian philosophy and stories behind it. And
sure.
by and large, that makes the most sense to me. And students definitely have their aha moments around their own nodal stories, because it's not past life, this life. It's it's one. And it's two sides of the one coin, right?
Exactly.
So yeah,
Exactly.
it's definitely something you can't really disconnect from. So I really love this, having some of the nodal meanings in that is going to give so much richness and value to people. One other thing that really caught my eye with the article is the 12 forms of the sun, and how
Mm,
some of the I guess there's some similarities and differences in just the kind of the way that some of the signs are, the attributes that they have. So
mm,
is
mm.
there a way that you can sort of describe that in, how that's a little bit different to what maybe most people are more used to?
Sure. So the sun in Vedic astrology um, follows paradigms of heat and of light, um, and also of time. So there's these three aspects of the sun that are dealt with because there are different systems of time: in local mean time, the clock time, the natural time.
Hmm.
So there's different systems of time, which are different maps of the sun. There are different areas in life where light is visible. There's also light in the mind, which activates thoughts and dreams. And there's light physically in different, there's light on the earth, there's light in the solar system, and there's light beyond the solar system, because the stars are essentially suns as well. So there are different levels of the sun in Vedic astrology. It's not just the sun at the center of the solar system. It's the
Mm.
concept of the sun and of heat and of life thereof and movement that is generated by heat. So looking at the one aspect of the sun, which is the Aditya, the 12 forms, at least there are different systems of Aditya. There are 8 systems, there are 12 systems of the sun, there are 30 or more also systems of the sun, depending on where we're looking at, whether it's heat or light in the physical body, in the mind. But the 12 forms of the sun, as I wrote about in the article, are speaking to forms of the sun as the archetype for access and control to resources, specifically because the Vedic sun signs or the zodiac signs are seen as quantum of karma, heaps of particular a set equal heap of karma, and the sun as the archetype of action as very strongly as it's having its strongest manifestation in the 10th house, the midheaven general area where the sun is the brightest,
Yeah.
is overseeing the karma and the actions of the whole world. And so joining that concept with the sidereal sign, the implication is that the sun in each sign is indicating different sets of karma, different sets of action, by which the resource is indicated by the sun sign or the sign is being enlivened and vivified and activated and accessed. So the concept of the Aditya, and there are ways to check how strong that connection is in everyone's chart, because not everyone is, Abraham Lincoln or something, that
Yeah.
you doing something huge with the resource provided by the sign. How much access do we have to that sign's resources and themes and characteristics and implications of action? And that's essentially what it is about, the light that is a access, channel of
Mm.
connection between us here on earth and the karmic map indicated by the sidereal sign, the stars in that section of the sky.
I love just the richness of the philosophy of it. It's kind of not about keywords or
Yeah.
there's just something extra that's very in depth and rich and meaningful. So I'm just been so thrilled that I've been able to have you to contribute your work to this publication, so you can people can start to learn more about some of these philosophies and expand upon some of their current astrological knowledge. And as I've mentioned, learning about the nodes from an Indian perspective has totally shifted the way that
Yeah.
I look at them now. So, moving into eclipse season, of course, if you want to learn more about the nodes, Indian astrology is the way to go. So, Nathan, can you let some of our watchers / listeners know what's your website? How can people get in touch with you and what you might have going on in the pipeline that you might like to share with people?
Sure. So my website is www.speakerastrology.com. That's one A between speaker and astrology shared. Email address is info@speakerastrology.com. And I specialize in rectification because I rectify using both systems of astrology, both the hardline technical rules as well as the soft things like looking at the person's thumb and their face and, incorporating the body, what the body is saying as well into the rectification. And so that's very in depth. That's something that I do for astrologers as well as for regular people. And what I have going on at the moment, I'm teaching in India and speaking at a conference on on health, basically, in December in India. And I also do copy editing for a Jyotish magazine in India, a full publication that's been around for over 20 years. And I'm also with something you're familiar with about editing work. And I'm also teaching I think a 10-week course on new aspects of temperament and medical miasma, which has been lost in the Western tradition in medical astrology. I've derived techniques from Hippocrates and Galen and people like that, and I'm presenting that as a mini course as part of their medical certificate with Kepler College in June next year. So that's
Oh,
also something that's
wonderful. Yeah. So awesome. And this is why I think why some of the Indian astrologies are so supportive and helpful, because remediation is such a big part of the way you practice as well. So
Yes.
yeah, this is fascinating. I've loved this. I've loved your article, and I'm so appreciative that you've been able to shed some light on Indian traditions for us.
My
And
pleasure.
so thank you. So we'll put all of Nathan's details in the description box where you can, sign up for the course, get your chart rectified if you're unsure of your birth time, or if you also need any assistance in that way too. So thank you so much once again. Really appreciate it. And I look forward to connecting with you soon.
Sure.
All right.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks for taking some time out of your day to talk to us, and look forward to seeing you all next time.